A very good evening to you. Welcome to a brand new edition of Newsfirst Prime Time. I'm Sonali Vanikabadge. We start off first with a look at the stories making the headlines tonight.
"770 hectares of forest reserves consumed by raging forest fires." Tensions flare in Vallavali, Batticaloa following a wild elephant attack. Special commodity levy on several imported grains reduced. Indian fishermen to attempt to enter Sri Lanka's maritime boundary carrying white flags.
Over the past 3 months, man-made forest fires have destroyed over 770 hectares of forest land.
A fire broke out in shrubbery area located in close proximity to the Bibila town this morning. 25 electricity posts were damaged as a result of the fire. According to a correspondent in the Monaragala area, a fire broke out this afternoon in the Kirivijayapura hill and caused damages to nearly 50 acres of land. Meanwhile, over 40 acres of forest land was destroyed in the Inamalawa Reserve in Habarana due to a forest fire. According to the police, the fire which erupted last evening has been doused. According to statistics of the Forest Conservation Department, over the past 3 months, a majority of the damages caused due to the man-made forest fires was reported from the Monaragala district. 251 hectares of forest lands were destroyed, while fires in Polonnaru destroyed 150 hectares.
Over the past 2 weeks, over 30 such fires have been reported. 22 fires were reported within a single day during last week. On most occasions, these fires are man-made. They sometimes start fires to hunt animals and to fulfill other purposes. We have received such reports. The Wildlife Conservation Department and the police are working together on man-made forest fires. We have taken necessary measures to set up raiding units under high-ranking police officers in forest areas. If someone carried an unauthorized flame or even attempts to start a fire, there are provisions to arrest them even without a warrant. The Wildlife Conservation Department does not have enough manpower to safeguard its own reserves. We believe that coordinating mechanisms need to be created in order to overcome these shortcomings. Such a program has not been created. The Wildlife Conservation Department is in charge of protecting the forests. It is their duty to see if anyone enters these forest reserves and arrest them. If they require the assistance of the police, we are prepared to provide it. However, if some institution is attempting to put the responsibility on us and wash their hands of it, then we don't agree to it.
Investigative journalism segment. Action TV is up next.
Accepted research findings and medical reports show that 33% of Sri Lanka's school children are suffering from anemia and protein deficiencies. As a result of following accepted medical procedures and following research findings, this country has succeeded in surpassing countries in the African and Asian continents in terms of eliminating many contagious diseases. The President's actions to allocate funds through the budget to eradicate malnutrition among school children must be commended. While funds for the school children nourishment program are provided to the provincial councils, the responsibility of implementing the program island-wide has been conferred on the Education Services Ministry. A circular too has been issued in line with this program. While the circular lists the type of foods that are to be provided for school children on weekdays, on the 5th of May, the Ministry of Education Services issued a set of guidelines for the North Central Province in which it recommended that medicinal herb soup or kanda be provided to the students. Accordingly, on 4 days of the month, the students should be given kanda instead of food. This letter makes it evident that the Ministry of Education has selected the institution from which the medicinal herbal soup should be purchased. Ascertaining the medicinal value of the kanda would prove to be a difficult task, given that it has been labelled a boon from the gods. Nevertheless, the label that is issued with the kanda that reveals the secrets of the so-called boon of the gods should give one an idea as to the transparency of the institution in question. Using the list of ingredients, one can reach a rough estimate of the cost of production. Tomorrow on Action TV, we take a look at more information, including the amount of money that has already been spent by the North Central Province Education Department on this medicinal kanda instead of food.
Fishermen in Rameshwaram staged a protest today calling on Sri Lankan authorities to release Indian fishing vessels in Sri Lankan custody.
Indian fishermen charge that 57 Indian fishing vessels are currently in Sri Lankan custody. Over 700 fishermen from Rameshwaram staged the protest by not setting out to sea. A total of around 4,000 fishermen joined in the protest.
இந்த காலத்திலுமே இவ்வளவு அதிகமான படகுகள் வந்து இலங்கை பகுதியில வந்து இலங்கையில வந்து கைது பண்ணி வச்சதே கிடையாது.
We have never had so many vessels not setting out to sea for this long. The fishermen of Rameshwaram and Pudukkottai convened a meeting and we decided that we will not ply our trade till our vessels and our fishermen are released.
மீனவர்கள் மீட்கும் வரை எந்த படகும் கடலுக்கு செல்வது என்ற ஒரு பெரிய தீர்மானத்தை போட்டுருக்காங்க.
After discussions we decided to release the fishermen of both countries. As we released them, we also decided to work in line with the laws. Jayalalitha is letting Indian fishermen come into Sri Lankan waters and engaging bottom trawling. So we are compelled to arrest them. However, we release the fishermen with no fines imposed, but we have to seize their vessels and take legal action against them. If this issue is to be solved, both parties need to stop straying into neighbouring waters.
President of the Rameshwaram Multi-Day Fishing Vessels Association, N. Devadasan, also stated that they will launch a massive protest campaign unless the fishing vessels being detained by Sri Lanka are released immediately.
If the boats are not returned, we will meet with the district commissioner and hand over the licenses for our boats. If they continue to detain our fishermen, we will sail to Kachativu on the 2nd of this month, flying white flags, and we will all surrender to the Sri Lankan army.
Navy media spokesperson Commander Kosala Vanakula Surya stated that any individual who violates the Sri Lankan maritime boundary will be dealt with according to the law.
Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Jayalalitha Jairam has called upon Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to ensure that the members of the UN Human Rights Council mandated Commission of Inquiry on Sri Lanka are granted visas and are in a position to conduct a fair and impartial inquiry. India's The Hindu newspaper reported that Jayalalitha Jairam had made this request in a letter addressed to Prime Minister Modi.
In a letter written on Wednesday, the Chief Minister said that given India's geographical proximity to Sri Lanka and that a number of Sri Lankan Tamil refugees were residing in Tamil Nadu, India is definitely a place that any team probing human rights violations in Sri Lanka should visit to conduct its inquiries. She said that intervention on Modi's part would go a long way in assuaging the strong sentiments prevailing among all sections of society and the policy in Tamil Nadu. In her letter, Jayalalitha also gave an account of the background in which the Tamil Nadu State Assembly adopted 4 resolutions in recent years on the Sri Lankan Tamils questions and the steps taken by her in the last 3 years to impress upon the centres the need to do justice to the Tamils. Nevertheless, during a recent seminar held in Sri Lanka, former Indian Union Minister and chairman of the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party Strategic Action Committee, Dr. Subramaniam Swamy, expressed the following views.
The relevance of this paradigm change of Mr. Modi become Prime Minister will be felt in the SAARC countries in particular, and in particular in Sri Lanka. Your President was honorably invited to be present in the swearing-in ceremony of his become Prime Minister. Your Foreign Minister has been assured that we will never agree to making human rights investigation as a punitive or as a intrusive weapon. And therefore, you will find that Mr. Modi will give first priority to the SARC countries. And therefore, I think in the United Nations Human Rights Commission, India would be far more supportive of Sri Lanka's position than ever before.
Our special segment Before the Ballot is up next.
The people of the village in Itthekatua are fighting a daily battle to live as a result of chronic water shortage being experienced in the area. The prevailing drought has further aggravated their situation.
I
came here looking for some kangkung. I'm going to the fair tomorrow to purchase some goods for the home. The crops have wilted away and the fields have dried up too, so I am now looking for some kangkung to sell tomorrow for some money to buy rice and other food. I can make about 1,200 rupees if I get 100 bushels. I can save about 400 rupees and I use the rest to buy the goods including rice.
The villagers of Nanagalanda and Itthekatua, an agrarian community, rely on water supplied from the Nanagalanda reservoir for their crops. However, as you can see here, the water level of the reservoir is extremely low.
Although the muddy water carries diseases, the villagers have no alternative.
128 families live off this reservoir. The fields are on this side and this season, all the fields wilted away. We rely on agriculture for our livelihoods.
These people who rely on their own strengths to make ends meet have been left despondent now as Mother Nature too has turned against them.
About 6 to 7 months ago, they told us that drought relief would be provided, but none of the farmers have received anything.
The water shortage is not only the problem faced by these villagers. It is just one of a myriad. The lack of electricity has also had a debilitating effect on this rural community.
There are about 300 families in our village. An electricity scheme has been established in one section of the village following the announcement of the provincial council elections. What I mean is, they have dug holes for electricity posts.
The impatience on the faces of these villagers is clear to see as they wait with great anticipation for a light in the dark.
Let's now take a quick look at some of the views expressed in the run-up to the Uva Provincial Council polls.
The government boasts continuously about development, but where is this development? The people have been forced to cut down agarwood, also known as Wallapata, in secret. They have been forced to catch crocodiles. The people are forced to engage in illegal activities. The people are forced to dig for treasure because this capitalist government has not created a proper economy. We provided electricity to your village. Did you only provide electricity to those from our party? We did not check which party you were affiliated to. We provided electricity to everyone. If Pushpa Kumar has done some work, it will be remembered even if you go today or in another 10 years' time. Anyone can contest from a party today. The chief ministerial position that was brought to Monragala was taken over by Shashinda Rajapaksa. The president hides when he sees me because I ask for certain things when I see him. I have a right to ask him, and unlike other chief ministers, I know him a bit more. I have associated him for a bit longer time than the others, so he needs to give me a bit more.
Well, a group of wildlife officers were made to face this situation in the Vellavali area in Batiklo. The officers had come to this location in order to chase away a wild elephant.
The wild elephant encroached on the Vellabali area in Batticaloa at about 6 o'clock this morning. Villagers accused the wildlife officers of being late to respond in spite of them notifying the Ampara Wildlife Office. Residents say the animal attacked and killed a man while they were waiting for the wildlife officers. The elephant had also injured 2 other men.
The elephants attack and we die. Is this to be our fate? We asked them for protection for the village, saying the elephants were coming. They asked us how many villages can they go to. We notified them at 6 a.m. and it was 10 o'clock by the time they got here.
அதுக்கப்புறம் எவ்வளவு நேரங்கள அப்புறம் ராணுவங்களும் பெருசு வந்து படி அனுப்பிச்சிட்ட அப்புறம் கொஞ்சம் இங்க இருந்து கொஞ்சம் நேரம் போயிருக்குது.
It came crashing through the trees and we ran.
A herd of elephants came in and 2 of our brethren's legs were broken. This man was picked up and thrown against a tree while he was burning some garbage. The elephant only left after the army came in and lit firecrackers. In truth, we have no vehicles. We opened offices in Kiran and Wellawali. We opened one in Batticaloa as well. We only have one vehicle to cover all of Batticaloa. We needed to go to both Kiran and Wellawali. The problem is that they came from Batticaloa to here. Our people went there too.
The villagers held the wildlife officers in the village against their will until the elephant was chased away from the area.
Australian government says that a group of reportedly Sri Lankan asylum seekers being transferred from a customs ship to the mainland will not be resettled in Australia. The 157 men, women and children left in a boat from India and have spent nearly a month in legal limbo on board the customs ship after being intercepted by Australian authorities.
It is not our policy to send out a water taxi as soon as the smugglers put up the whistle, as occurred under the previous government.
A defiant tone from a minister under pressure. Immigration Minister Scott Morrison, who has just returned from India, would not confirm where the asylum seekers will be held on shore. However, Australia's public broadcaster ABC reports the asylum seekers are being moved to the Cocos Islands and from there will be flown to the Curtin Detention Centre in remote Western Australia. Morrison, who held meetings with Indian ministers while in New Delhi, has suggested India could accept the asylum seekers.
The final location for return of these passengers is still to be determined and is subject to operational considerations. Until this process undertaken by Indian consular officials has been completed, the persons will remain in Australia. And the government reserves its position to then apply any other measures available to it under our policy settings and relevant legislation.
The full bench of the Australian High Court will hear the asylum seekers' case next month. Lawyers of one of the asylum seekers are seeking a court order preventing the federal government from sending the asylum seekers to Sri Lanka, Nauru or Papua New Guinea. Lawyers also want the court to declare that the government acted unlawfully and abused its powers. In a defense statement filed to the court, the federal government said the people on board the vessel did not hold visas entitling them to travel to or enter Australia. It also refused to admit the people on board are entitled to claim asylum from any country.
With you 24 hours a day. Verified, unbiased, balanced, fearless. www.newsfirst.lk Best Web.lk Awards 2014. Silver Award, Best Media Website. Bronze Award, Best Tamil Website. We thank our loyal viewers for continuing to place your trust in us.
Your life, our news.
Speaking in Parliament today, Prime Minister D.M. Jayaratne said that the law has been enforced in the case of the abduction and rape of an 11-year-old girl from Karaynagar in Jaffna recently. He made this statement in response to a question posed by TNA Parliamentary Group leader R. Sambandhan.
Is the direct result of the militarization of the North. The matter that concerns us is the way investigations and legal action have been pursued by the police. The other issue is a threat and intimidation faced by the complainants and their families, in addition to the severe trauma undergone by the complainants. Can the Minister kindly inform this House as as to the steps taken in this regard, and is he also able to assure this House that immediate steps would be taken to apprehend the real culprits and deal with them according to the law, and also to prevent such despicable incidents in the future?
While she was walking to school, a Navy sailor who was near the Murugan Kovil had called the girl who was wearing the clothes of the LTTE terrorism. The girl had then run in the direction of her school. It has been reported that the suspect had then attempted to carry the girl into the nearby jungle, but had released her upon being confronted by a passerby. The girl's mother had inquired from the school principal regarding the girl returning home at 1200 hours. Following questioning by officials from the probationary care division at the divisional secretariat, the jungle area where the suspect had taken the girl was investigated. After she was examined at the Jaffna hospital, it was reported that she had been raped.
What
the Honourable Prime Minister has stated in the House has been merely a reiteration of the several facts that are contained in my motion. So here again do we see an attempt being made by the government to prevent the truth coming out.
An answer is given to the 33-2 question that you raised by the Honourable Prime Minister, and the matter is pending before the Magistrates Court. So, yeah.
But what is happening?
Yeah, but this is not
the
a
matter
forum.
Can be pending, that's all right.
This is not.
But
Under
as far as the government is concerned,
a debate. This cannot be converted to a debate.
How many countries is this happening in? It is not only in Sri Lanka. Look at how many times it is happening in India. While all of these incidents have happened around the world, they can only see this one incident. You are trying to show to the world that there is a bad situation in that province, but the law has been enforced and the police are acting appropriately within Sri Lanka.
MTV Channel Private Limited instituted an action in the District Court of Colombo through Attorney at Law G.G. Arul Pragasam against Lanka Market Research Bureau Private Limited, seeking damages in a sum of rupees 1 billion. MTV Channel Private Limited also sought a declaration that Lanka Market Research Bureau Private Limited has not duly and properly carried out its research in respect of the audience and viewership of television channels broadcast in Sri Lanka.
In the plaint, MTV Channel Private Limited has stated that at all times, material the MTV channel broadcast under the names MTV Sports, Sirisa TV, Shakti TV and Newsfirst has a wide and varied audience. It is also stated in the plaint that LMRB represented to the public and the advertising agencies that the organization conducts proper and independent research regarding the sales and viewership figures of TV channels, and the publication figures shown in the sale and viewership of TV channels are correct and based on proper research. The plaintiff pleaded LMRB has a duty of care towards the plaintiff and had breached the said duty of care, and further that the methodology adopted by LMRB in surveying, analyzing data and reaching conclusions was incorrect. The action filed at the District Court of Colombo also stated that LMRB adopted inaccurate methods of survey and wrongfully adopted incorrect methods of analyzing data and reaching conclusions, and further that Lanka Market Research Bureau was biased and acting mala fide towards the plaintiff and was negligent to wrongfully set out the position of the viewership of MTV Channel Private Limited. It is also stated in the plaint that LMRB was well aware in publishing the aforesaid reports with the figures of viewership that it would have a bearing on the advertisements placed in TV channels of MTV Channel Private Limited. The plaintiff notes that LMRB did not duly and properly carry out its research in respect of audience and viewership published and circulated in Sri Lanka. Hence, the organization notes that due to the actions of LMRB, MTV Channel Private Limited suffered a loss and damage in a sum of rupees 1 billion, and that LMRB failed and neglected to pay the said sum, although demanded.
Development of a country and creating a healthy society go hand in hand. Now, these two key factors have been taken into consideration when developing Colombo city.
This area is commonly known as the Sand Park or Valley Park, as it used to be the location where lorries which transport sand were parked. It's a location on the road from Nugegoda to Navala. Earlier, a section of this area was also used as a garbage dump. However, the sand park has now been transformed into a location that is admired by many. The renovation work of the area was commissioned by the Ministry of National Defence together with the Urban Development Authority. The location is now known as the Nugegoda Urban Wetland Park and has become a retreat for people who wish to get away from the hustle and bustle of their daily lives. The people who would like to be in shape could also use the facilities that are established in this park. The koi pond, which is built to add color to the park, is also an attraction. The Nugegoda Urban Wetland Park, which is established for the welfare of the society, could be seen lit up by lights powered by the eco-friendly solar panel power grid. A barren land which was of no use to anyone has now been transformed into a park full of beauty. It's the duty of the people to preserve the beauty of this park.
That was a scene captured by Newsfirst cameras in Polonnaruwa 2 months ago. However, this is the situation that Polonnaruwa is facing today. Months ago, incessant rains caused tanks in Polonnaruwa to overflow and it even inundated paddy lands and cultivations. However, the people of the North Central Province are currently facing extreme drought weather conditions. Nearly 127,916 people have been affected in the Polonnaruwa district owing to the extreme weather conditions.
This is the current state of number of tanks that overflowed during the start of the year. The Parakrama Samudra was overflowing till the 17th of January this year. However, today the water level of the Parakrama Samudra has seen a sharp decrease. The Parakrama Samudra, which can hold up to 110,000 square feet of water, currently holds only 48,800 square feet of water. This is the Giritale tank. The tank, which still supplies water to paddy cultivations in the area, only holds 6,600 acre feet of water. The water capacity of the Kaudulla tank has also seen a sharp decline. There are doubts as to whether it has the capacity to supply water for paddy cultivation. Residents residing in a number of areas in the Polonnaruwa district are also faced with difficulties owing to a scarcity of drinking water in the district. The entire district is facing a drinking water crisis. Even though we give them water through bowsers, they have no way of storing it because they have only small containers. If there are any donors who can donate tanks which could hold around 2,000 liters, it would be helpful. We need around 5 of them per village. Then the people can obtain water from them. Lands in the Galneva and Pallegala divisional secretariat areas, which fall under the Anuradhapura district, have also been affected by the dry weather conditions. Water levels of smaller tanks located in the North Central Province have also seen a decrease owing to the drought. Farmers point out that a lack of attention given to small tanks in comparison to the main irrigation system remains the reason behind the water scarcity experienced by many.
There are
about 160 medium-scale tanks which falls under the irrigation department in the dry zones. In addition to that, there are many tanks belonging to the agrarian services department. We are monitoring the water levels and the ability to release water for cultivation. Intellectuals point out that the failure to renovate small tanks and the failure to remove silt from tanks is the main reason as to why officials have been unable to retain water.
අතීතේ නම් වෙල්විදාන කියලා කෙනෙක් පත් කරලා ඒ වෙල්විදානේ හරහා ඒ රොන් මඩ වාර්ෂිකව අයින් කිරීමක් සිද්ධ වුණා.
In the past, an individual known as the Vel Levidane was in charge of removing silt annually. The current administrators of the tanks do not do this anymore. They are not aware of how much silt is deposited and how much needs to be removed. They are only concerned about filling water, so the capacity of these tanks decrease. Then it becomes difficult to retain water.
වාර්ෂිකව අවශ්‍ය කරන ජල ප්‍රමාණය රඳවා ගැනීමේ අපහසුතාවයක් පවතිනවා.
මේකට හේතුව මොකද්ද? ගොඩ වෙලා. එහෙමනම් අපි සමත් වෙලා නැහැ.
The tanks are full of silt. We have failed to conserve our rainwater. This is a consequence of that. The government's water management policy dictates the importance of water. First comes drinking water. Second comes hydropower. Third comes industry, and agriculture is placed fourth. The main livelihood of the country is agriculture. Our ancestors created these tanks for agriculture. However, this government has placed agriculture fourth in its priority list.
ආණ්ඩුව වීවගාවට විශේෂම කෘෂිකර්මාන්තයට දක්වලා තියෙන 4 වෙනි ස්ථාන.
As per the amendments, the special commodity level of 100 rupees per kilogram of cowpea and kurakan has been reduced to 70 rupees. The levy of 102 rupees per kilogram of mung beans has also been reduced to 70 rupees. The levy on peeled and unpeeled watana dal, which stood at 22 and 25 rupees per kilogram respectively, has been reduced to 15 and 18 rupees per kilogram. The levy on chickpeas has been reduced to 5 rupees, while the levy on unpeeled Mysore dal has been reduced by 3 rupees. The Finance Ministry says that these steps were taken in order to control grain prices in the country, given the reduction in domestic supply, and to ensure sufficient food stocks and food security in the country.
Well, thank you, Sonali. You're joining me from Star Studios Ratmalana. We are, of course, bringing the latest details of the Commonwealth Game 2014, which is currently being held in Glasgow, Scotland. Now, we must say that Sri Lanka performed well on day 2 of the Commonwealth Games. Now, the victory for the team included champion shuttler Niluka Karunatilaka. Now, Sports Vice Roshan Vatapala joins us for more details.
I am currently opposite the indoor complex where the badminton and indoor cycling events are taking place. The Sri Lanka badminton team recorded victories against the team from Barbados today. Sri Lankan athletes are due to compete in table tennis, shooting, judo and swimming events today.
Judo පිහිනුම් යන තරඟ නියෝජනය කිරීමට සූදානමින් සිටිනවා.
Well, thank you, Rishan. Incidentally, badminton was not the only sport that the Sri Lankans have tramped in. We also have good news from our Sri Lankan sports fans from the boxing arena.
And 27-year-old Sri Lankan Don Patheridge.
Sri Lankan boxer Madhuranga Pathirage took on Andrew Isiga of Papua New Guinea today in a round of 32 class. Madhuranga competed under the 69 kg weight category. The judges' scores at the end of the first round were 30 to 27 of Madhuranga Pathirage, who competed from the blue corner. It was a repeat performance in the second round as well, and Madhuranga advances to the round of 16 event, where he will compete against an opponent from Guyana.
So the Sri Lankan in blue, and just in case you're wondering on the scorecards, those scorecards are not displayed in the arena.
Sri Lankan weightlifters also took part in the Commonwealth Games today. Sangit Sirisena and Tilanga Palihasinghe competed in the 56 kg weight class for men. Both competitors were successful in the clean and jerk section of the competition but failed to perform in the snatch section. Varna Kulakula Surya, who competed in the 48 kg weight class women's weightlifting event, failed to perform as well.
Well, that's a wrap from our Commonwealth Game Centre here in Star Studios for today. Over to you, Sonali.
And finally, in some cricket news, Sri Lanka ended day 2 of the second test encounter against South Africa on a high after posting a first innings total of 421 runs. Now the game is being worked off at the SSC grounds in Colombo. And on that note, we wrap up this edition of Primetime News. I'm Sonali Wanigabadage, wishing you a good night.